Chair Ronesh Dhawraj. Ronesh, thank you for being with us live from our Durban studios. So just your first reaction to these numbers coming in from KwaZulu-Natal.
Hi, good evening, Francis. Nice to be with you again. Well, no surprise at all, absolutely, because I attended the PGC earlier on at the Olive Convention Center. The mood was very upbeat. Everyone was on their feet, everyone singing songs in support of Dr. Dlamini-Zuma. So these results, not a big surprise. Earlier on during the day, we had the spokesperson of the ANC in KZN, Mr. Ntuli, also confirming that 85% of branches in KZN had actually nominated or shown their support for Dr. Dlamini-Zuma. But I think very interestingly, if you look at all the numbers that have come in, this was the final province from all the PGCs, you would see that Cyril Ramaphosa has the support of 5 provinces, and Dr. Dlamini-Zuma, her total tallies to about 4 provinces. But I think key for Dr. Dlamini-Zuma is that she has the support of some of the bigger provinces like KwaZulu-Natal, which will have 870 delegates at national conference in 2 weeks. Then again, we go back to the numbers that you were mentioning. If we look at the final tallies of the branch nominations from the PGCs, Cyril Ramaphosa sitting at 1,865 nominations, and then Dr. Dlamini-Zuma at 1,437. So there is a slight difference of 428 votes. But remember, Dr. Dlamini-Zuma also has the support of the 3 leagues. She's got the support of the veterans, of the ANC Youth League, and of the ANC Women's League. But of course, this may very well change when National Conference sits, because that ballot is a secret. So branch delegates could possibly choose to vote in another way from the pronouncements that we have been seeing and hearing the entire week.
Ronesh, do you agree though, 28% or so of KwaZulu-Natal supporting Cyril Ramaphosa keeps him in the lead? Like you say, those numbers can change, but it could have been a very different story if the whole province had gone to her. So these margins are actually looking good for Ramaphosa.
I was very surprised that Cyril Ramaphosa fared so well in, since the nominations were announced, because I expected somebody like Zweli Mkhize, the former chairperson of KZN, the ANC in KZN, to do much, much better. But I think what's of concern for me more is the number of abstentions, because we heard earlier on we had abstentions, anything between 80 and 100. So that figure could very likely change the scales. It could tip, more support for Cyril Ramaphosa when National Conference convenes, or it could mean more support for Dr. Dlamini-Zuma when those branch delegates finally make it to Nasrec in Johannesburg and make their mark next to the person that they would like to lead the ANC for the next 5 years. But very surprising figures. Obviously, we know that Cyril Ramaphosa does have support in KZN. We've seen him coming to the province a couple of times. There were a bit of fractures or ructions between himself and the KZN PEC, where he came to the province twice without informing the PEC, and the PEC reacted by saying, that's not protocol. You should have informed the PEC. That's normal ANC protocol. So there are divisions, and this just confirms that those divisions are manifesting in the numbers that we are seeing. Like we saw earlier, Dr. Dlamini-Zuma getting 433 nominations from the province, and Cyril Ramaphosa with 193.
All right, so let's look at these overall numbers. Cyril Ramaphosa in the lead, 1,865, and Nkosazana Dlamini at about 1,400 or so. So quite a wide difference, but like you said, there are factors that come into play. So let's talk about the first one, which is the actual number of delegates per branch being sent to the elective conference.
Francis, you have to remember how the ANC functions as an organization. The ANC basically is made up of branches. Branches form regions. Regions form provinces. And, we kind of get a national picture of how the ANC looks like. The ANC is also a very, very large organization. It has somewhere around 1.2 million members. I'm not sure how many of them are actually paid up members, but we will find out very soon when the SG Gwede will present his organizational report at National Conference. Yes, but those numbers, going to any national conference after every 5 years, you want all the big regions on your side. Obviously, KZN KZN has been the biggest region for the past 10 years, since Polokwane 22%, and now this time slightly below 18%, but the biggest delegation in terms of numbers, 870. You also want regions like the Eastern Cape, Mpumalanga, Limpopo on your side. We've seen from the numbers from the PGCs being released that Dr. Dlamini-Zuma now has the support and the pledge from KZN, and she also has support of Mpumalanga. Mpumalanga is going to be a very, very key and instrumental province. What we saw on Friday was the chairperson in Mpumalanga, David Mabuza, coming out and saying that there is a so-called unity ballot, and that unity ballot had 200, well, the number was 223. When you look at the actual nominations, Cyril Ramaphosa and Dr. Dlamini-Zuma, there was a difference of 6. So Mpumalanga is going to be the real kingmaker when National Conference sits, and I think David Mabuza is going to be in a very, very powerful position. He will be able to dictate what happens post, December 21 this year.
And how influential are the leagues? We know that Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma has the Women's League, the Youth League, but they're not anywhere near they don't have the clout of the branches in this race. Just give us a sense of how powerful they are.
Francis, to assess the influence of the leagues, we have to go back. I always go back to Polokwane, because Polokwane for me was a template of what the ANC is and what it should be. In the run-up to Polokwane, we saw the influence of the ANC Youth League. We saw the influence of the Women's League, also the Veterans Association. The veterans only were allowed to vote in 2012 in Mangaung. The ANC Youth League, Women's League, and the veterans all have between 45 to 68 delegates. That's just below 1%, and the remainder of the voting delegates obviously comes from the NEC and the PECs from the different provinces. But in terms of the league's influence, remember in the lead up to Polokwane, there was this whole victimization narrative around Jacob Zuma, that he was being prevented from ascending the highest office of the ANC. So obviously the ANC Youth League did a lot of his bidding on his behalf. On their side, we also had COSATU, we also had Sanko, we also had the SACP. So in terms of creating that rhetoric and creating that noise out in those public spheres, in the media, people will take notice when the ANC Youth League speak. People will take notice when the veterans speak. People will take notice when the Women's League speak. Like we have seen here in KZN, especially the Youth League. The Youth League in KZN has always been in the news for all the wrong reasons. So I think going to this conference, people will pay attention to the Youth League, Women's League, and the veterans. But of course, when it comes to numbers, the numbers aren't that significant, but they will carry some sway when it comes to national conference.
And what about the numbers of the actual provincial elective councils? Because they too have a small allocation, don't they? Could you technically have a situation where you have the branches in a province all supporting one of the candidates and the leadership right at the top actually supporting another candidate?
Yes, when it comes to the provincial executive committees, they normally number around 180. So that's not a big number, but when you put all those numbers together, because this race is so closely contested, every single vote will count. Going back to the numbers again, if you look at all the major provinces, the difference between Cyril Ramaphosa and Dr. Dlamini-Zuma, the difference is just 428 in terms of the PGC nominations. So at national conference, you will want every vote from the PEC, whether it's a 20-member PEC or whether it's a 30-member PEC. You will want the vote from the ANC Youth League between, their 45 to 68 delegates. You'll want the vote of the Women's League and the Veterans Association. So in this race, I think because it's so closely fought, and because Cyril Ramaphosa has the commanding lead so far in terms of provinces, but the disadvantage to Mr. Ramaphosa is that he doesn't have the support of some of the bigger provinces. If you look at a place like the Northern Cape just has around just under 4% of delegates that's going to national conference. Then the Western Cape is around 4% as well. So in terms of a major difference at national conference, no. At national conference as well, we also have to look at the policy positions, the policy discussions, the policy deliberations. The bigger your region, the bigger and the louder your voice will be at plenaries, at those breakaway commissions too.
So Ronesh, final question to you. You've basically suggested that the race is still actually wide open, and I guess a big reason for that is that the ballot is secret. Things can change right up until the last few minutes.
You know, Francis, lots of things can change in politics, and like we've seen, you know, we have history as our template. We know what happens at ANC national conferences. We read things in the media. There's also the suggestion that envelopes might be changed, you know, exchanged between two people, people carrying briefcases into conference to possibly bribe delegates, because when those branch delegates go into that voting booth, no one knows who they voted for. So, you know what, the race is not completely over. Things might change because because the race is so closely fought, and because there's just a small number of votes separating Cyril Ramaphosa and Dr. Dlamini-Zuma. It's a very, very closely fought race. I think we are going to be on tenterhooks for the next couple of weeks here in South Africa.
All right, so a two-horse race, but we don't know which one will actually nose in at the end. Thank you very much to researcher Ronesh Dhawraj. Peter?
Francis,